Elon Musk just dropped a number that breaks your brain. $1 septillion. That's 1 trillion times $1 trillion. And he said we should spend all of it just to make antimatter. Sounds insane, right? Like something a sci-fi villain would say. But this is Elon Musk, the guy who said we'd have electric cars for everyone when people were still laughing at Priuses. The guy who said we'd land rockets standing up, and now SpaceX does it every week. So when Elon says $1 septillion for antimatter, the smart move isn't to laugh. The smart move is to ask, why? Why would the richest man alive even think about spending money that doesn't exist on fuel that barely exists? Let's start with what antimatter actually is, because most people think it's just science fiction. It's not. Antimatter is real. It's the exact opposite of normal matter. You have protons, electrons, neutrons. Antimatter has antiprotons, anti-electrons, anti-neutrons, same mass, opposite charge. And when matter meets antimatter, they don't just react, they annihilate. 100% of the mass converts into pure energy. Einstein's E equals mc squared but maxed out. No waste, no heat loss, no pollution, just pure, raw energy. To put this in perspective, 1 gram of antimatter mixed with 1 gram of normal matter releases more energy than the bomb that hit Hiroshima in 1945. 1 gram, that's the weight of a paperclip. Imagine what 1 kilogram could do, or 1 ton. This is why NASA has been obsessed with antimatter for decades. Because chemical rockets are slow, they're limited by fuel. To get to Mars takes 7 months. To reach Alpha Centauri, our closest star, would take 75,000 years with current tech. But with antimatter propulsion, Mars in 30 days. Alpha Centauri in 10 years. This is how you become an interstellar species, not in thousands of years, in one lifetime. But here's the problem, and it's a massive problem. Antimatter barely exists on Earth. At all. Right now, the world's most advanced particle collider, CERN in Switzerland, has only ever made about 20 nanograms of antimatter. Ever. In all of human history. 20 nanograms, that's 0.00002 grams, and it cost them over $1.2 million to make that tiny amount. Let that sink in. We spent $1 million to create a speck of dust so small you can't even see it. At that production rate, Elon's 1 trillion times $1 trillion calculation is actually being generous. So why is it so expensive? 2 reasons. First, making antimatter requires smashing particles together at near light speed inside huge colliders. It's like trying to create lightning by crashing 2 cars at full speed. 99.999% of the energy is wasted. Only a tiny fraction becomes antimatter. Second, once you make it, you have to store it, and antimatter explodes the second it touches normal matter. Air, metal, plastic. Doesn't matter. Touch equals annihilation. So scientists have to trap it inside magnetic fields, floating in a perfect vacuum. 1 power outage, 1 small mistake, and your entire antimatter supply disappears in a flash of gamma rays. We can't even store 1 gram safely yet. Not even close. This is why most physicists think Elon's timeline is wrong. He said more than 100 years, and most experts agree. At current tech, we're talking centuries before antimatter fuel becomes practical. But Elon didn't say we should do this now. He said we should think about this, because Elon thinks in first principles. He asks, what's the fundamental limit of energy? What's the ultimate fuel? And the answer is always antimatter. If you solve it, you solve energy forever. Spaceships, power plants, everything, no more oil, no more coal, no more waiting. Now here's where it gets interesting for us, because Elon didn't say Chu would make antimatter cheap. He just said it would cost $1 septillion if we do it the old way. But what if there's a new way? What if we don't need bigger colliders? What if we need smarter colliders? And that's where AI comes in. Right now, in 2026, something huge is happening behind the scenes. Researchers at MIT, DeepMind, and even CERN itself are using artificial intelligence to simulate particle physics. AI can test millions of collision patterns every single second, patterns that would take human scientists years to calculate. AI figures out in minutes. AI is finding new ways to focus energy, new magnetic field designs, new ways to trap antimatter longer without losing it. We're still early, but the results are wild. In 2024, an AI at DeepMind discovered a new way to control plasma that human physicists had missed for 40 years. Plasma is what we use to trap antimatter. So if AI can crack plasma, it can crack antimatter. Think about it like this. The first person to make fire was a caveman with a rock. The first person to make cheap electricity was Tesla with a coil. The first person to make cheap antimatter might be an AI with a supercomputer. This is a trillion-dollar race, not because of the money, but because whoever solves antimatter production owns the future of space travel. They own interstellar energy. They basically own the 22nd century. And Elon knows this. That's why he's funding AI companies. That's why XAI exists. That's why he keeps saying AI is the most important thing we're working on, because he sees the connection. Cheap AI equals cheap antimatter, equals Mars colonies, equals interstellar civilization. It's all one chain. Remove AI from the chain, and we're stuck here on Earth for centuries. But let's be real for a second. The risks are insane. If you could make 1 kilogram of antimatter and it escaped containment, it would be the biggest explosion in human history. Bigger than all nuclear weapons combined. This is why governments are scared. This is why antimatter research is so heavily controlled. It's not just fuel, it's also the ultimate weapon. And that's the paradox. The same tech that gets us to the stars could also end civilization if it gets in the wrong hands. So back to Elon's original question. Should we spend $1 septillion on antimatter? My answer, not yet, not with today's tech. But should we spend billions funding AI research into antimatter production? 100%, because AI is the only thing that changes the math. Without AI, antimatter stays a sci-fi dream for 200 years. With AI, we could see breakthroughs in 20 years, maybe 10. Elon's $1 septillion number sounds crazy today, but remember 2008. People laughed when he said electric cars would beat gas cars. They laughed when he said rockets would land themselves. They laughed when he said Starship would reach Mars. All of those sounded impossible until they didn't. And now we're laughing at antimatter. History says we shouldn't. So what's the real future here? If AI cracks antimatter production, humanity becomes an interstellar species in your lifetime. We stop being a one-planet species. We stop being limited by Earth's resources. We become explorers again. But if AI fails, if physics really is the wall, then Elon's septillion-dollar dream stays a dream. And we stay stuck here. I want to know what you think. Is Elon being serious, or is this just visionary hype to get people thinking bigger? Comment AI below if you think artificial intelligence will crack antimatter in our lifetime. Comment no if you think it's all science fiction and we're stuck here forever. And if you want to see what happens when AI tries to design the perfect antimatter engine, watch this next video right here, because that's where the story gets